Hello, and you're very welcome to Oracle Digital in East Point Business Park. We are live in the Nebula Room. My name is Dan Airey, and I'm joined by two program managers, Antonine Gibbons and Yvonne Keily. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for coming in to talk to us. So we're here today to talk about the graduate program and some interview tips for graduates.
Yes.
So I suppose to start off with, would you have kind of a preparation checklist before an interview that a graduate could kind of follow that would?
Oh, going straight into it. I do. I kind of call it my 7 deadly tips for interviews.
Right. Okay. So just to clarify, deadly is a completely positive term in this case?
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. Nothing to do with any. It's not that deadly.
Okay.
It's good deadly.
Right.
Brilliant, as it were.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's the Dublin deadly.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, do you want me to go through the tips or
Go through, yeah.
stuff? All right. So, my first tip, and Yvonne, you jump in, whatever, is all about stalking.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, in a positive sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Positive stalking.
Is stalking not always positive?
But you don't tell the police that, though.
True. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so when I say stalking, right, I mean have a bit of a stalk of your interviewers and of the company.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's always good to check out if you know the names of who's going to be interviewing you. Check them out. Now, don't go complete psycho stalker. Like, you know, you don't have to go to the deep depths of the web and find out what they did, like,
the dark web.
10 years ago.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about a check on their LinkedIn profile. See, you might find some interesting info there. Maybe you have a few things in common with them. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Could have went to the same university. You could have been involved in some kind of charity work that they were involved in or something they're interested in. They may have written some material on there and you could really make them feel good by referencing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose it gives more of a connection to you and the interviewer then.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it really helps to build a rapport if you know something about your interviewer going in. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
So as Antonine was saying, you know, you're looking them up on LinkedIn, you're seeing if you have anything in common with them, but you could even just, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, you could even just put their name and the name of the company into a Google search and, you know, see any interesting articles or any interesting videos or something like that they've done that is easy to reference back in
just
the
don't do that
interview
with
as
my
well.
name. Google. I'm only joking.
That'll bring us to the dark web again, won't it?
Yeah.
Yes, stay away from the dark web.
Definitely. So then there's also like stalking out the company a bit. So it is important that you research the company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good old stalk on the website and see what's happening in the news. Anything people are saying about the company that could be a hot topic or trend it's always impressive when people have done that.
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing that stands out for me is that, let me take a step back. There's nothing more annoying as an interviewer to have the whole website regurgitated back at you. Do you know what I mean? We work for the company, so we know what the website says. But I think it's really interesting, like that, if it's like news reports or something like that, or an interesting article that maybe Forbes or TechCrunch or something like that has written about us. I think that's a lot more interesting than to regurgitate the website back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Same.
Absolutely. Bring something new and fresh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We mightn't have even heard it. So that's extra impressive.
Yeah. And create the conversation piece.
Brilliant. And so that's number 1.
That's number 1, yeah.
Number 2?
Number 2 I have is check the tech.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So by that, what would you mean?
So by that, that's usually if it's not a face-to-face interview. So if you're not coming in person, so you're doing it either over the phone or we would usually do it like over video. And we all know, working for a technology company, that sometimes technology it doesn't work perfectly for you the first time.
Absolutely.
And it's important just to check out how it works. Whatever that company use for their interviews, check out that you have it downloaded onto your laptop, that you're all ready to go, that you've got good sound. Do a bit of a test. Like you could set up maybe with a friend to test it out and make sure everything's working.
Yeah, I mean, and same like we said, we use video, so make sure that your camera is aligned properly so that we can actually see you, and we're not like just looking at the top of your face or top of your head or like down here. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not the most flattering thing to look at during an interview. And
you could go through the entire interview and be like, it would be the best interview ever. It'd be like, we can only see your forehead for like 90% of it. Yeah.
And even the nicest foreheads aren't that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good to see this whole face.
Yeah.
So that would be my next thing. Simple enough as well, but just prepare yourself by checking out.
And it just saves any stress as well, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like interviews can be stressful if you're nervous, you know what I mean? So the last thing you want is like 2 minutes before the interview is due to start, like, oh dear God, my phone's
I
not
would
working.
stress in that situation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And as a follow-up to that then, would you have any advice for people in terms of calming nerves before interviews?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, I think if you have done your research, there isn't really a reason to be overly nervous, you know. And I think, I mean, there's no need to be cocky either. You know, there's a fine line between, you know, being overly confident and cocky. But I think if you put the research in, and you actually think of your interviewer as being a person, you know, like we're interviewers, but we're people as well. Do you know, that kind of way? So like we're using the interview process to get to know you as a person. So you should treat that interview, I think, to get to know your interviewer and to get to know the company as well, you know? And at the end of the day, some nerves are good, you know? And as an interviewer, I certainly would use the first few minutes of an interview to try and put the candidate at ease, you know? Do you think that as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I definitely echo that preparing and that human side, right? At the end of the day, you want to come into an interview and you want to be yourself, because if you're not, if you go in and try to be someone else, then what if you get the job and it's not the right job for you? So
absolutely.
So we want to see you and your personality, and I'm sure you're a great person then if it's the right job for you, you get it. So it's the same as, you know what, when you're going to meet like a parent of a boyfriend or girlfriend and you're really nervous.
Right.
But you have to remember to be yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Prepare a bit more for an interview maybe.
Yeah. Slightly.
So 1 and 2 is gone through. Number 3?
So number 3, I've written like just a short and sweet, and what I mean by that is just to be concise with your answers.
Right.
So I think sometimes, especially when people are nervous, you can get into rambling a little bit. And preparation definitely helps with this as well. But if you're well prepared and you can answer in a concise way, that's always appreciated. At the same time, like one word answers aren't good either.
So there's a fine balance with that as well, that you don't want to be, they ask you a question and you're just straight out with an answer, and it's there needs to be
I think sometimes people are really afraid of any silence at all. So say if someone has given me an answer and I don't like immediately that second answer, they might think, oh, she's looking for more, and they'll keep talking, and then it kind of gets lost. So I would say
you go off on tangents.
I would say nice, short and sweet, and you can always ask if you've given enough. You can always ask that.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about being concise, I think it's good to have some like a story or some examples prepared already that you can use when you go into the interview. And if you have them prepared, they are concise. Do you know, that kind of way? You know, just to be, I suppose, in line with what the company is looking for, what the job entails.
Yeah.
And I suppose going back to what you were saying about asking questions, do you think that is kind of not so much a stigma, but I suppose a stigma around interviews is that, you know, you're not in a position to be asking the questions, and because of that, there's kind of a reluctance to ask questions.
Yeah, I can see how people would feel that, but I heard actually one of the senior directors who met with the group of grads before giving them advice, and he actually said how he knows that the person is the right person for the job is they end up interviewing him. So
Right, okay.
they're so curious about the job and about the company and about what's happening that he's like, wow, this person is good. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be afraid to ask questions, but you do kind of have to use a bit of common sense. It obviously is an interview, so you're there
Yeah.
to answer questions. But definitely, if it feels appropriate to ask a question, or if something's not clear, go for it. Like,
Yeah.
I think asking a question also shows that you've listened to the interviewer during the interview itself. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, certainly you can use it as an opportunity to ask the interviewer maybe to clarify something that they've already talked about, you know, so say it could be something like training, or it could be something like career development or something like that. But if you aren't good at thinking on the spot, you know, maybe it's nerves or something like that, I think it is good to have, you know, at least one or two questions prepared. But then to actually listen to what the interviewer is telling you once you've actually asked the question, as opposed to not listening and then just shooting into another completely irrelevant question.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there shouldn't be a stigma attached to asking a question.
Yeah. No, 100%. So 7 Deadly Sins, number 4.
all right, I'm on for, this is a nice one. It might sound a bit fluffy, but it's
a lovely one.
Smile.
Cheese.
Yeah, even if it's maybe a phone interview, I've positivity is contagious. You know that, Dan. You're a very positive person. So.
I tried to be.
Yeah. And, you know, it can be hard as well in an interview when people get nervous. They suddenly get really serious, and just relaxing, smiling, bringing across your positive energy. It really, really does have a good effect on the overall interview.
And it really helps the interviewer, you know, build rapport with you as well, I think. Do you know what I mean? Like, as you meant, like, smiling is contagious, you know. I'm smiling right at you now. But again, like that, your interviewer is human, as I said before, you know, so it really helps to...
Most of them are.
Most of them are, yeah. We're not, though, you know, we're cyborgs. But, you know, as I said...
How's Earth treating you as old?
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's
a bit
very warm.
disappointing.
Yeah, it's very warm now, but, you know, yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. It's a smile.
Smile.
Perfect. So, number 5.
Number 5, you just kind of jumped ahead of me and already asked me this one. So number 5 I said is like ask. So ask questions.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So we kind of covered it already, but it's like if you're not sure, or if the question wasn't clear either, you could say, did I understand the question correctly? Is this what you want me to answer? It goes back to the listening as well. Or, you know, just you can check if you understood the question, and if it's appropriate, just feel free to ask. And do clarify rather than answering the wrong question and making it look like you didn't listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, just what I think about the smiling and the positivity, I suppose the more positive you are, it shows that you're there for more than just a job interview, and you're there to show you off. Would I be right in saying
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody wants positive people on their team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the last thing you want is somebody miserable coming in and just upsetting everybody.
Yeah, although we're inclusive of miserable people.
Or at least we make it look like that.
Exactly.
Maybe across the line there.
We're all miserable sometimes. I'm miserable before coffee in the morning.
So, number 6. Second to last one.
Number 6, it's making me look like a bit of an idiot now, but it's ask questions at the end.
Right.
So you'll always, pretty much 99% of the time at the end or towards the end of an interview, you'll be asked, do you have any questions? And have a couple of questions. Have them prepared. If you don't ask questions at the end of an interview, it does come across like you're not really interested. So to show your interest, have some questions prepared. And probably don't let how much will I get be the only question.
Absolutely.
Ask them questions about the role, about how you can be successful, whatever things you're genuinely curious about, have them prepared to ask.
And then I suppose if there's anything that you didn't get to mention up to that point, that would be,
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last but not least, number 7.
So last that I have on my 7 deadly tips is a follow-up can be a great idea. So not just, not just following up with the recruiter, but you might have the chance to follow up with the interviewer. And I mean, you mightn't go to extreme stalking measures to do that, but I have had a particular example of where I've been sent a video. It might be via the recruiter, but it was directed at me, summarising a couple of strengths from the interview and why they really want to be part of my particular programme or part of the company. And that's really nice because it shows interest, enthusiasm, and it shows this person is willing to go kind of the extra mile to do something like that.
Yeah, that really was great. I have to say, It doesn't have to be a video though. Do you know what I mean? Like even like a nice email or something like that, just to even thank the
box of chocolates,
interviewer,
bottle of champagne,
brown envelopes, but just even a nice email just to say thanks a million for your time. I really enjoyed speaking with you. You know, I think that's a really nice touch.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So can you guys individually remember a particular interview that you came out of it and you were like, wow, I need to hire this person? Or anything in particular?
Yeah, sometimes there are wow interviews, and for me, I have one in mind, so I can't like mention any particular.
Yeah, without naming names,
never
of course.
Choose favourites and all of that. It's usually because the person was so positive, and it ended up being this like a conversation. It didn't feel like an interview for either of us, and we got everything covered. But it was like more two-way conversation, and it's because they were natural, enthusiastic, and just really positive. I think that positive energy in an interview is what really wows me, especially because I'm interviewing graduates. So that's what I want to see, is that kind of attitude, that positive attitude. That's what really wows me in interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, similar to what Antonine said, I can just recall a load, but one that in particular that stands out is somebody that just came in and they just got it. Do you know what I mean? Because I think as a student and, or a recent graduate, you're used to, teachers or lecturers just telling you what's what. Do you know what I mean? And then you go into an exam and then you're just regurgitating everything that your lecturer has told you onto an exam paper. And that's absolutely 100% correct. Do you know what I mean? But then you go out into the real world and you actually have to have an opinion about something that's not somebody else's. Do you know what I mean? And I do recall a candidate just being extremely knowledgeable about, the tech industry, about, what was going on in the market. And they actually had an opinion as to how it was going to, affect jobs or affect, employment or the government. Do you know what I mean? And like Antonine said, it just became a conversation. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I walked out of that interview and I said, we actually just really need to hire this person. This is brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it was great.
Brilliant. So I suppose on the other end of the spectrum, do you have any specific ones that you're like, wow, that was the craziest interview that I've ever had?
You go first.
This could get interesting.
So I've been interviewing quite a while. I worked in recruitment for 8 years before I came into this role. But maybe not so crazy. I had somebody tell me once before that, I was asking them, why they wanted to work in this role and how they think they'd fit in or whatever. And they said, oh no, I don't want this job. I'm only here for the interview practice. So,
wow.
So I was like, right, lovely, great. I just wasted an hour of my time there. Thanks a million, So that really didn't go down too well. We were talking about video interviews there recently, and I sometimes I don't think people treat them with the same professionalism maybe as they do with the face-to-face interview. And let's just say that this candidate, had a cigarette in their hand the whole way through the interview. Okay. So that I thought that was a bit crazy, probably not ridiculously crazy, but I thought that was just completely unprofessional.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and just it's just not
What
something
year
that
was
you
it?
do.
Like, was it? It was in the 80s.
What are you talking about? I'm 19.
Of course.
But you know what I mean? Like that was just, I just thought that was mad. That was crazy.
of all times to smoke a cigarette in the middle of an interview.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
so like, I mean, that was just a bit mad. But I mean, thankfully, the crazy moments are few and far between, but when they do happen, you remember them.
Yeah. I knew Yvonne would have madder ones than me. I don't have anything that crazy. The only thing, sometimes people don't act like they actually want to be there, and that's the worst. I really come across then. I'm like, why are you wasting your time and my time? You don't want this.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I suppose go in and kind of show you care.
yeah.
I suppose would be kind of a response to that.
Yeah.
And I suppose if we go back to the simplest of simple, would you have advice for people, assuming that we're all wearing clothes to start off with, would you have advice for candidates as to what to wear to an interview?
Wear them.
Clothes.
Yeah, I think you know, obviously as a junior candidate or a student or a graduate or whatever, you might not have the funds to go out and buy like a 3-piece suit. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think you need one.
And I don't think you need one. I think it's just important to look professional.
Yeah.
You know, so whether it's like, I don't know, like a pair of slacks and a top or a shirt or something like that for lads, and girls simply, I don't know, like a dress or a skirt and top. You know,
or slacks.
Yeah.
And a top.
Yeah.
Tops and bottoms. Tops and bottoms.
Just look professional. You know, look smart and professional. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's an okay question to ask your potential employer as well.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of companies, you know, obviously they have a casual dress code themselves. Do you know what I mean? So your interviewer might look casual. But I think it's just important for the candidate just to maybe just step it up a tiny little bit. And just look the part.
Yeah.
But
And
not
who-
necessarily a suit.
And who knows, in some cases that might be a test in itself.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would say the general thing to do is, if in doubt, dress up a little bit more rather than dress down a little bit more. So
Yeah.
like Yvonne said, 3-piece suit, that would even might look a bit odd, but you know, like, look like you care, like, as well. But I mean, there's not a very strict dress code here, so it's not something I would particularly notice. But I do notice when people probably make more of an effort. At the same time, I don't even know if I notice if they don't.
You probably would, though.
Maybe I would.
Yeah.
I suppose you might take it more into account if the interview hadn't gone that well, maybe, or...
Personally, I think that would be the first impressions count, I'd say, but that I would care more about the person's attitude and everything else.
Right.
But I think if you walk into an interview and you're like in ripped jeans and like a really, I don't know, ripped t-shirt or something, then you kind of didn't. Depends on the job. It depends on the situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I suppose going back a bit as well, from a CV point of view, what stands out for you guys in terms of on a CV? If you're looking at a CV, you're like, I want this person because of this, and this, or
Like, I think it's probably fair to say that graduate CVs all look very similar. You know,
right.
They talk about education and whatever, you know, work experience that you've had, whether it's an internship or vacation period or something like that. For me, a CV is, you know, it's concise as well. We did talk about being concise in an interview. It's concise. It's to the point. There's no waffle on it.
Right.
You're not putting something down in a CV just for the sake of filling up a gap. If you've achieved something, write about your achievement. And, you know, as a grad, you mightn't have had much work experience, as I said, but it could be a sporting achievement. So maybe you could have been the captain of a football team, or, you know, I don't know, you won lots of competitions in sport or something like that. I think it's particularly important to put down any charity work maybe that you've done, any leadership roles that you've done there, and just I suppose, just any really good points that you think your interviewer will be interested in hearing about you. I think it's important to put it down, but don't be putting down something just for the sake of putting something down. And I think we spoke actually, myself and Antonine spoke recently about the design CV versus the standard Word or PDF CV, you know, recently.
Okay.
And there are, I suppose, differing opinions out there in industries. I think it really depends on the job that you're going for. So a design CV is one that has graphics on it, you know, maybe little icons or logos or something like that. And I think that could be good, say, for a sales and marketing type role, or maybe something that involves a lot of graphic design. If you're going for maybe a legal type role, or maybe finance or admin, I think it's probably better just to stick to the standard like Word format and PDF, etc., but no more than 2 pages. I think anyway.
Yeah,
just
I
be
think
concise.
one probably page
If
for
even,
a graduate CV is loads. And I just echo what Yvonne said about the extra stuff. So as a graduate, we're not looking for people to have all of this work experience, but we will look for examples when we ask questions, and you can pull them examples from things that you did in university, like, for example, societies. You're involved in the Radio Society, am I right?
Yeah.
So if I
Yeah.
saw that in your CV, I might ask you, okay, what's involved in that? And maybe you can give me an example from that of your leadership skills. And you probably have loads of things you organised and people that you've had to lead in that society. So that kind of thing is brilliant. Like, you probably hear the term transferable skills. And that's what we would look for, things outside of work experience for a graduate, things that they might have done, extra things in university, or as Yvonne said, on different teams or different societies they were involved in. And so those things are really good to include on your CV. That's what I think.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So then I suppose to finish up with, it kind of might encompass everything we've spoken about, but just to go right back to the bare bones of it, in terms of, would you have any advice for graduates who are currently looking for a job? So not quite at the interview stage,
Gotcha. So
but just they're applying for jobs or things like that.
So maybe they just graduated this year.
yeah.
I think take the time to actually figure out what you want to do. You know,
That was my one.
Sorry. So take the time to figure out what you do. I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, I think sometimes, you know, some people might go into one degree, like you might go into a business degree and then decide, oh, do you know what, I hate that, I really don't want to do that. Or do an arts degree or something and just say, oh, I'll figure it out after graduation. But you know what, after graduation, you're like, I still don't know what I want to do. So just take some time and kind of research various different jobs. Do you know what I mean? You know, maybe use LinkedIn, you know, just to look up various different job titles, just to see what people do. Maybe try and talk to people that are in that industry, just to do your research.
Yeah.
And I suppose take the time to prepare like a good CV, you know, just to put the effort in. When you're looking online to look for jobs, make sure you're tailoring your CV to that job, you know, just to kind of make it look like that, you know, that you do have the right fit that the employer is looking for. And just, I suppose, tailor each application. You know, if you're writing a letter or an introduction paragraph to the employer, just make sure you're tailoring it to the job. Dear God, there's loads of examples that I can think of where I've gotten, you know, applications and my name is wrong, or maybe the company name is wrong, the job is wrong. Do you know what I mean? It just goes like you haven't put in the effort.
I've seen,
you know
like, CVs that would say looking for a finance role, applying for a sales
role,
program, which I'm like, maybe just change the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. Like, figure out what you want, and obviously that's not easy, being a graduate, to know what you want to do forever, and I don't think anyone expects you to know that. But figure out what you like, what you like doing, what are your strengths, where do you want to start your career, research different companies and find out about their culture. And do that by talking to people who were on their graduate programs or are in roles in there that you might like to go into. You can find them on LinkedIn or probably through your network. And I'm usually happy to put people in touch with people who have been on the graduate program, and they're usually happy to talk to people. And that's the best way of researching, chatting to someone who's actually done it.
And I think something that I hear quite a bit is that you don't have to, I mean, you touched on it there about having an idea immediately. You don't have to have an idea immediately of exactly what you want to do. You know, you can take the time to, as you were saying as well.
I absolutely do not know what I want to be when I grow up.
No, still don't. But I think, you know, as I mentioned, like we were talking about, like try and take the time to figure out what you want to do. But, you know, we were talking about graduate programs and internships as well. They're a really good way of figuring out what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? Like an internship could be 6 months. You know, our grad program is 6 months. You know, it's only 6 months. Do you know what I mean? Come in, try it. And you'll know really quickly whether that industry or that career is for you. And it's a good way of, again, you know, by doing some work experience of figuring it out, do you know, that kind of way, but also figuring out what you absolutely don't want to do as well, which is sometimes a little bit hard as well.
Definitely.
Antonine and Yvonne, thank you very, very much. We are here at Oracle Digital in East Point Business Park. I've been Dan Airey, and we'll talk to you very soon.